This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. Good morning. Yes, you've reached the office of Fear and Blame. Yes, we're still on the 4th floor at Vancouver City Hall, although we are closed for earthquake retrofit, and we're having a bicycle ramp built into the office. So leave your name and number. We'll get back to you 6 months or so. Thanks very much. Hello, everybody. Nobody covers Vancouver City Hall quite as thoroughly or quite with as much amusement as Alan Garr, who's been doing this for 2,000 years, and we're delighted to have Alan with us in the studio today.
They were actually, when I started, they were in a tent.
Exactly, an igloo. And I have to say, because the Vancouver Courier is one of our sponsors, as a matter of disclosure, we did not ask your current publisher if you could come on the show. This is not a sop to our sponsor.
She would have turned you down.
Yes, I know. She would have said, "Who? What?" Does she even know you work there?
Yeah.
So start me with this. I mean, you are, as far as I'm concerned, you are really the singular guy to cover the shenanigans at City Hall. Start me with something simple. What's with the obsession about bicycles? Why do we go on and on about bicycles?
Well, I think it's Gregor.
Yes.
And on the other side, there are people like Rob McDonald, who was the guy that bankrolled the MPA. He hates bike lanes. He's a cyclist. He hates bike lanes. So people have decided to hate these things.
Yes.
And as a result, we hear a lot about it.
But if I were living on the other end of town, meaning like 60th and Knight Road, and I were a taxpayer, I would be really suspicious about all the work that's gone on in the Burrard Bridge, followed by all the work that's now going on in the Burrard Bridge, followed by this plan to reroute the bikes through Kitts Park, followed by the plan to have bikes only on part of Point Grey Road. You know, I mean, what is all that?
Active transportation.
I see.
So active transportation is everything but cars.
I see.
That's inactive transportation.
Yeah.
So there's actually an active transportation committee. It used to be called the pedestrian committee. Then there was a bicycle committee. No.
There's an
active transportation committee.
Yeah.
And
ATP.
So, you got it. And so we are interested in changing the mode of transportation. That's the word, mode.
Yes.
So, and we want people to get out of their cars, get on buses, walk, or cycle. And it's been quite successful, actually, in the West End of Vancouver.
Has it?
Yeah, well, I mean, increasing percentage of people, the highest percentage of people in the city who walk, cycle, or take buses live in the West End. So we're, have you ever lived in the West End?
Yes.
Yes.
My
so
son,
you know, a lot of people don't even have cars.
Yeah, my
son
and I meet for brunch or late breakfast around Kitsilano about every 10 days or so. And on Thursday, he said to me, "I counted 2 bicycles on the bridge today."
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yes, it's a problem when you consider that every move he makes, to quote a Police song, costs $2 million or more. He meaning Gregor. Is it true that his children were born with training wheels?
Yeah. But it is true that he cycles everywhere. He wears a suit and he cycles. He wears a helmet and he cycles.
He's got a little porta shower.
But I think they're. I mean, if it were to, we could take this seriously and say it's not a bad idea to move people out of cars and onto other modes of transportation. It's better for the environment. You know, it makes kind of a friendlier environment than honk, honk, beep, beep.
But bring me something else. I mean, it just gets tiresome. It's sort of obsessive.
Well, I think people get obsessed about that as opposed to other things. Like, are we attracting more jobs to the city?
That's
are
a
we
good
getting
question.
greener jobs? Are we developing our industrial parks here?
In today's paper, the mayor said, a brilliant quote, which I believe someone must have written for him, because I don't think he's up to this. He said, we shouldn't be concerned with hard hats, we should be concerned with hard drives.
That sounds like Gregor.
Does it?
Well, it sounds like
a
it
script
would come
writer.
from his group.
His group, exactly.
His group.
As you pointed out before we came on air, no politician...
Was that on the record?
Yeah, no politician acts alone, right?
Well, that's right. No, so Gregor's part of a team. I mean, that's what you... Some politicians appear less a part of a team, but he's definitely a part of a team. He's got his chief of staff, Mike McGee. He's got a policy analyst, Kevin Quinlan. He's got Joel Solomon, who is a guy that...
bankrolls him.
He bankrolled his juice company.
And his mayoralty candidacy.
And he gave him a lot of money when he runs for mayor. And also Bob Penner, who's with Stratcom, who's that's a polling firm that also helps him. So there's this group around him, aside from the team members of council, who advise him, feed him lines, make sure he doesn't get
too much dirt on him, too much dust on him.
None. I mean, this guy is squeaky. That's right. He never steps in it because they never let him near it.
Okay, but other people are stepping in it, and you said in one of your recent columns that fear and blame that's why I started with Good Morning, it's Fear and Blame. That fear and blame have become kind of the watchwords of the way City Hall is operating. And here are 4 other wonderful, juicy words you used. Disappointment, betrayal, manipulation, deception. This is how you describe City Hall relating to those community groups like Marpole and Woodlands and these...
Yeah, Grandview Woodlands particularly, I think they were just, and this is all around their community plans, which are very difficult to affect, community plans. But nonetheless, you know, you just see that in terms of engagement, these guys aren't very good at it at City Hall.
Why?
And people...
Because they don't want to be.
Well, you know, engagement and consultation are tricky things, if you think about it seriously.
Because you ask some fool his opinion, he's going to have one.
Well, he's going to have, but you may be, so there's two reasons why people say you didn't consult with me enough. One is you didn't talk to me at all, which about this thing that now appears on our community plan, which is what happened with Grandview Woodlands and the 30-some-odd story towers at Commercial and Broadway, and everyone went, what? Where did that come from? Or the thin street thing that they did in Marpole. So you didn't talk. So that's one thing. The other thing is you talked to me, but you didn't come to the conclusion that I did.
Of course.
So, I mean, it's hard for politicians, therefore, to figure out when you say you didn't consult and you say, but we talked. And they say, but you came to the wrong conclusion, but we talked. Right, so that's very tricky.
But here's one of the kinds of talkings that we had described right here in this studio just a few weeks ago. We had one of the fellows from one of the community centers that's not buying into the one-card system for the park board, and he said they're having a meeting of their community people, they're all volunteers. Who walks in and takes over the meeting? Penny Balaam.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Who invited you, and how come you're the goddess of the...
She's the city manager. Right?
Yeah, we know. She's the city manager.
Right.
So
that's the other kind of consultation.
Yes.
Where you come in and tell people what you're going to do.
Exactly.
And you say, you know, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
So they do a little bit of that too, and that's what they did. I think that's how the park board operated when it came to this one-card system and trying to amalgamate all of the community centers. And people were, I think, justifiably really offended. The ones, I mean, there are half a dozen of them that didn't get into the room to do the consultation. The rest did, but I think a lot of those who did figured, you know, we're better off inside the tent than outside because at least we can see what they're going to do to us.
Try this for one of the most paranoid plots I've heard in a long time. Apropos of that one-card system, somebody suggested to me that the real game here is in time to get rid of the park board and absorb it into City Hall proper. And the reason is that property developers, land developers can start scooping up things like Langara Golf Course and making more condos.
Well, I mean, you know, the park board, we are the only city in North America, I think,
that
has
has
an
one.
elected park board.
Yes.
It was created as one of the first acts of this city was to, I think, create the park board along with getting Stanley Park, right?
Yes.
The government of Canada said, here, it's yours, thanks a lot. So that's why we created a park board to manage that. It would be very hard. And in effect, what's happened with the park board is that they've become more closely embraced.
Yes.
To be positive,
Yes.
by the city. They're essentially, they're an elected body that is treated like a department
Yes.
of the city, much like the police. Except the police have more schlep than the park board.
Well, they have guns.
So they have guns, that's right, and fast cars.
Yeah.
So there's really no need, I think, in terms of the city and the city administration to get what they want from
Yes.
the park board, there's really no need to get rid of them. They're always the same political stripe as
Yes.
city council. The manager of the park board reports to
the city.
the city
Yeah,
manager, in the same way that the manager, you know, the police chief reports to the city, they all report to the city. So, and the other thing they've done is it's called a services review. So they actually knocked out a lot of things that were happening at the park board and amalgamated them. There used to be 2 maintenance shops.
Yeah.
They amalgamated. 2 garbage collection systems,
There
they
you go.
amalgamated. So they've amalgamated a lot of stuff now. So there's
we've
really
got-
no need.
Yeah, we've got a minute before a break.
We do?
You saw the latest, whatever it is, it's almost a budget kind of plan, a draft. You didn't hate it, but you didn't think a lot of it. You didn't, the impression I got reading your column was it wasn't that revelatory. It didn't tell us very much.
What it told you was what they're going to be running on in the next election.
Which is?
Bikes. Bike lanes.
Hello.
Bike lanes,
Yeah.
green stuff, you know,
Yeah.
all that is all going to be coming back.
And
you know?
more property taxes for homeowners.
Well, inevitably. But property taxes inevitably go up. The problem is it's going up faster than your income is going up.
Well, that's a serious
And
problem.
that is a serious problem. And I think that we are going to see the smallest tax increase you've seen in decades.
Well, I hope you're right, as you usually are. We'll take a little break. I have to take a break so I can go see my banker and get a bigger mortgage. And we'll come back in just a moment. This is your chance to go to davidberner.com. Send us friendly or ugly emails as you choose. And also a chance for wonderful people who support us to say hello here on Shaw Community Television. Cable 4. Back in a moment.
This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works.
Alan Garr, political columnist for the Vancouver Courier, has been hanging out at City Hall and City Hall Council meetings since, as he said, they began working in a tent. And how would you compare this group, who've been in power now 2 terms, how would you compare this group to anybody else but, say, the Walter Hardwicks and the Harry Rankins and the George Puels and so on?
They're more controlling. I think they're more focused on what they're doing.
Oh, really?
I think they've got a mission.
Yes.
And they're pursuing it.
Have they told us what it is?
Bike lanes. You don't like bike lanes. Green, you know, we're going to be the greenest city. We're going to deal with affordable housing. We're going to reduce street homelessness by 2015.
Yes.
You know, they've got all these goals and they pursue them aggressively, I think. But they control the information flow more than has happened in my lifetime, I think.
Why?
I I don't know why. I don't see it does them really any benefit. I think part of it is the culture that the city manager comes from, which is the provincial culture. She was a deputy minister of health there. She's a very bright woman, but boy, does she like to control stuff. So they're very careful about who you get to speak to. I used to be able to phone up the treasurer and say,
absolutely,
can you explain what's going on? What is not, does your boss stink?
Yeah.
I don't care about his political opinion, but how does it work?
We could also...
Why does this look like this? You could phone senior bureaucrats, mid-level bureaucrats, talk to planners.
And now?
Now you have to go through this screen called corporate communications. And for a couple of years, I phoned corporate communications, and you could never get a human on the other end of the phone. It was just leave a message, tell us what your deadline is, and
we'll call you in 6 months.
Yeah. Oh, so you're out. But now they're a little better there. But I just think they're control freaks.
I remember some years ago, you could call any counselor and go have coffee with that counselor and sort of feel out a situation, because I did that a lot. And now I have the sense that as much as I like these people as individuals, that the Raymond Louis and the Andrea Reimers and so on are kind of muzzled, kind of silenced.
I think they're, I think more than we've seen in the past. Also, they have like cabinet portfolios. So if you want to talk about money, you phone Raymond. If you want to talk about some transportation things, you phone this counselor, and they've kind of divvied it up. If you want to talk about bad landlords, you can talk to Stevenson.
But I get a sense...
But they've kind of divided up the pie. They're kind of sent out, you know, who's going to handle this? Okay, we'll give it to Jeff because it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Or who's going to handle this? We'll give it to Raymond because it's about the
But it's
budget.
almost as if somebody has said, the mayor is going to be the spokesperson for almost everything.
Good. Everything good.
Yeah, everything
good.
Next to him, the sharpest stick in the group is Jeff, because Jeff is sharp, and he can respond to almost anything.
Yeah.
And after that, you guys, you know, just stick to one or two issues.
Yeah, I think they parse out the issues very carefully to councillors. They don't speak about everything publicly. It's not... There is no Harry Rankin who will talk about anything.
Right. That's right.
Usually with expletives.
How about this?
Undeleted.
How about this? Whether we liked a Harry Rankin or a George Pule or a Hardwick, I think of those examples, and George is someone I fought with all the time in public, but I thought he was great, even though I was fighting with him.
Knowledgeable, smart.
That's the issue I wanted to ask you about. Do you think the current crop are as knowledgeable as the kinds of people I've mentioned? Because my sense was George, Harry Rankin, Walter, these guys knew every bylaw in the book.
I think they're more narrow in their knowledge. I think what they know, they know.
Okay.
I just don't get the sense it's as broad. And as I say, there was no, you know, when Philip Owen was mayor, he had one staff person.
Right.
And she was kind of a very, very nice woman, a bit of a gatekeeper, but mostly a clerical kind of person. I don't know how big the mayor's office is now. I can't remember, like, are there 5 or 6 or 8 people in there now? It started to grow when we went from Owen to Campbell, and then Campbell to Sullivan, and now it just has grown and grown and grown, just to control the message, to control the flow of information.
One of the things that I liked about Philip Owen, he wasn't my all-time favorite mayor, but one of the things I liked about him was that he was a guy who sort of took care of business, and he didn't seem to be always getting in my face and telling me how he's going to fix the world. And I find that tiresome with this batch. You know, like
these are kind of mission-driven.
Yeah.
Mission-driven, you know, we're
and
here
some people
they're going to save the world. We're going to save the world.
Exactly.
Philip actually, the other thing about Owen was that he would walk around the city a lot. You would see him everywhere, particularly downtown East Side. He was everywhere. And Larry wasn't bad at that either. He probably did it more when he was coroner than when he was mayor. He wasn't mayor for that
just a term.
Long, kind of a term, kind of a, like he was
almost a term.
Almost a term. But Philip kind of knew the fabric of every corner of the city. I don't get the feeling that Gregor is really that broad. You know, he gets very excited when the Waldorf goes down.
Yeah.
You know, the Waldorf Hotel.
The hotel.
So why?
Yeah. Why?
Those are his peeps, right? Those are his people. That culture, the hipster culture, that's what he relates to. They closed the Ridge and the bowling alley.
You've been wearing a fedora And drinking martinis, that's a culture?
Well, apparently.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so he relates to that age group, that culture. They closed the Ridge and the bowling alley on Arbutus, and where is he? You know, nowhere to be
He's
found.
in Joseph Loss's
So
backyard
he-
looking
so-
at the bowling sign.
Exactly. So I think he's passionate about what he's passionate about, but he's much more narrow in terms of his interests in the city than previous administrations.
Yeah.
And also surrounded by more people, programmed more. No one,
Yes,
don't even know
I think
who-
he's programmed
I
like
don't
crazy.
know who was around
Yeah.
Philip. I think he figured things out. You know, first he was on park board, then he was a councillor, then he became mayor. I mean, don't forget, our current mayor was never on council, never on park board,
Yes,
never on school board.
he was an MLA.
Briefly.
Yeah, yeah.
Very briefly. He was a business guy, then he was an MLA
Sort of
briefly.
a business guy.
Didn't serve one term. Did he serve a term? I don't
No,
think he served
no,
a
no,
term.
he moved on.
Right, he moved on, then he became mayor, so he's like spanking brand new,
Yeah.
trying to figure out which button to punch to get the right mic on around the table.
My feeling was that in the old days, if NPA, for example, or who did Jonathan work for?
Team,
Thank you. If NPA or team elected a mayor, that this guy was going to represent us. In this case, with Gregor, I get the feeling that this guy will be our front and center guy, but we, the vision, whoever they are, they're really running the show.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a party machine. I mean, it's like the Conservatives or the Liberals federally or provincially. It's more of that kind of political machine than when, I mean, the MPA prided itself in not being a party.
And they're
It's
very
a
tough.
non-party party.
They're
right?
very tough and very, very American in their style, because when I
They're tough.
Yeah, yeah,
They're tough, yeah.
yeah.
They're tough. So Penny's tough. They're
Yeah.
tough.
Okay, what's your prediction? We have about 3 minutes left. When's the next round? 14?
Yeah, November 14. Yeah, he can't be beat. At this point, there are about 6, I was counting on the way down here, there are about 6 parties,
Yes.
right? There's Cope,
Yeah.
there's Greens, there's the new team,
The new team,
there's,
I know. yeah.
there's the Cedar Party,
Cedar?
a Cedar Party.
What are we
There's
gonna
the
do?
Vancouver
We're gonna
First,
make
yeah, exactly,
totems?
canoes.
What
Yeah,
are we
I don't know
gonna
what
do?
we're gonna do with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Toothpicks.
Yeah.
There's the Vancouver First Party. There's a West End Party. You know, so there's about 6 different splinters. And there's the NPA.
I was going to say, what
and
about
the NPA.
the all-new, amazing new
NPA.
NPA?
Well, they'll have money. We've yet to figure out who their mayoral candidate's going to be, because if you
Yes.
don't run a mayoral candidate in that large system, no one talks to you anyway.
Yes, exactly.
They occupy successfully the center of the spectrum.
Yes.
Vision does, and they've successfully managed to push everyone out to the periphery. And you can't beat that. That's where you want to be in Canadian politics, anyways, in the middle.
In the
right?
middle, which
Right.
is the current this week's gag about the Harper throne speech.
Yeah, he's shifting to the center.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine
How
that.
many gear shifts would he have to go through to get to the middle?
Yeah, imagine
Anyway,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
following the Chrétien credo, do nothing and get reelected.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So you think at the moment that Vision can't be beat?
Unbeatable, yeah,
Yeah,
unbeatable.
and basically that's okay for the city. It's not a disaster, but it's.
It would be better if they could consult a little better, you know, if they weren't so dogmatic.
If they were a
didn't
little
tell-
interested in somebody
If they
else's
asked
thoughts.
instead of telling, yeah,
Yeah.
I think you get the feeling that they're not as interested as they should be. You know, when I talked about all of these adjectives that I use to describe what's going on in the planning department, there used to be robust debate amongst planners in the city.
Exactly.
You know, people would
Yes.
have ideas and they say, God, that's a good idea, or that's a stupid idea, or I'll take half of that and put it with half of mine, and we'll get somewhere. That doesn't happen as far as I can figure out anymore.
Spaxman, who is a kind of legendary and much beloved
But that's what he
planner.
brought.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
brought citizen involvement and that kind of open, robust debate, and people still remember him for that. He still
Yes.
wins awards for that stuff. But that, as far as I can tell,
What's the
that's gone.
current guy? Brian? I forgot his last name. The planner.
Jackson,
Jackson. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's not doing that.
not as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Sources say.
If you had a magic wand, what would you do to these guys? You wouldn't eliminate them.
I'd really reduce their majority.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Be nice to have a
Oh,
mix.
yeah. It'd be nice to have some strong people on the other side.
What do we have? One other person?
We've got 3,
Oh,
2
three.
NPA and 1 Green, but they're,
yeah.
you know, it's hard for them to get
They can't do anything.
any traction yet.
Yeah. Okay, and you're going to keep...
I'd like to have a word system, actually, instead of...
Would you really?
Absolutely. So neighborhoods are represented. You don't have these... We've got, our elections now cost $5 or $6 million for the city. We spend more per capita on votes here than any other level of government.
You know what's fun about a ward system is you can really bribe your guy.
That's right. You don't have to go through a machine. You go directly.
That's right.
I can say, David.
Yeah, here, $100.
Build the bridge.
Yeah,
Give me a parking spot.
Exactly, give me a parking spot. Exactly.
That's a very cynical view.
Oh,
I'm surprised
shame on
coming
me.
from you.
Shame on me. Well,
Shocking.
people kept asking me to run for mayor, and I kept saying, if you give me $20,000 in cash in a brown paper bag, and call me sir. Alan Garr, thank you very much. We'll keep reading
My
you in the
pleasure.
Courier.
It's fun.
Okay. Folks, that's it for us next week. Oh, dire subject. Dying with dignity. It's in the letters to the editor every single day. We have this debate going. So we'll have someone who's in favor of it next week. Thanks for being with us here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night.